Well, folks, I am not yet tired of winning. The winning just continues. We'll get to all the winning in just 1 second. First, it's official. Am I Racist, the #1 documentary of the decade, is now submitted for an Academy Award. That's right. It's submitted. You can only watch Am I Racist with a Daily Wire Plus membership. Don't have one? Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code Trump for 47% off today. So I've got a fever, and the only prescription is more winning. Really enjoying the staffing of the new Trump administration. According to the Wall Street Journal, there are a couple of picks that have been made. One is presumably going to be confirmed today, you would imagine, by the Trump campaign. The other one already has been confirmed. According to the Wall Street Journal, President-elect Donald Trump is expected to nominate Senator Marco Rubio of Florida as Secretary of State and has asked Representative Mike Waltz, a Green Beret veteran, to be his White House National Security Advisor, according to people familiar with his thinking. People familiar with the Rubio decision said Trump feels good about going with him, although there's always the possibility that Trump, until he confirms something, it's not totally confirmed. But spokespeople for the Trump transition and Rubio did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So President Trump is moving fast. He is staffing professionally. He is not taking his time. He's finding people who are loyal to the Trump vision, the peace through strength vision. Listen, President Trump was on this show 2 weeks before Election Day, and I specifically asked him about his foreign policy, and he said repeatedly, peace through strength is his foreign policy. That is the Trump 1.0 foreign policy. It's what 75 million Americans voted for. It's going to be 77 million Americans by the time this is all said and done will have voted for Trump's peace through strength, Trump 1.0 foreign policy. These are all picks who are loyal to President Trump. These are all picks who are going to do his bidding in the foreign policy realm, and they are all going to reinforce his Trump doctrine. The Trump doctrine, again, is cross this line and I will punch you so hard in the face, you will not want to do it again. That is the Trump doctrine, and it is a great Trump doctrine. It is an excellent foreign policy doctrine, which is why you got 4 years with no wars. Contrary to certain popular opinions, war is only prevented by preparing for war. Prepare for war so you don't have to do it is the actual way that you prevent war. Submission, cowardice, we tried that with Joe Biden. It didn't go particularly well. Donald Trump does precisely the reverse. So as I said on Fox Business, President Trump is the best foreign policy president of my lifetime, bar none. So again, those two picks are excellent picks by President Trump. If you don't know much about Marco Rubio, Senator Rubio from Florida, of course, he entered with sort of the Tea Party wave back in 2010. And then he ran for president, as you'll recall, in 2016. He ran for president against Donald Trump at the time. Now, Trump does have a unique capacity to let bygones be bygones, which is why, of course, J.D. Vance is his vice president, despite the fact that J.D. Vance said some pretty not nice things about him back in 2016. Rubio has proved himself to be a formidable asset on the campaign trail, who is loyal to President Trump's vision. He was an early Trump endorser. Not only that, Rubio has proved himself on foreign policy. He's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's great on TV. He knows all the players. Here, for example, was Senator Rubio. He was walking down the hallway and he was being harassed by a pro-Hamas heckler from Code Pink. It didn't go well for the heckler.
Senator Rubio, will you call for ceasefire?
No, I will not. On the contrary.
Senator Rubio,
are you filming it?
Wait,
I want you guys to get this. I want them to destroy every element of Hamas they can get their hands on. These people are vicious animals who did horrifying crimes. And I hope you guys post that.
And what about the civilians that are being killed every day?
Hamas should stop hiding behind civilians, putting civilians in the way. Hamas knew that this was going to lead to this. So Hamas should stop building their military installations underneath hospitals.
So you don't care that 15,000 have died? You don't care about the babies that are being killed every day?
I think it's horrifying. I think it's terrible, and I think Hamas is 100% to blame. That's what I think. Make sure you post that.
Good for possible Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Of course, Rubio has also said that if you come to the United States on a visa and you then proceed to spew anti-American, anti-Semitic nonsense, then you should be gone. We didn't bring you in here to make America a worse place. Here is Senator Rubio from the floor.
What I am saying is common sense. You're a visitor. You're not even an American. You're a foreign national. You're here because we gave you a visa to be here temporarily, and now you're out there defending and supporting Hamas, a terrorist organization. You need to go. That's what this resolution asks the administration to do. And I hope we can get a vote on the Senate, so at least everyone will know where everybody here stands.
So, great stuff there. Sounds like a great Secretary of State pick. Also, with regard to Ukraine, Senator Rubio is repeating the Trump line with regard to Ukraine. Okay, Trump's line with regard to Ukraine, contrary to popular opinion, is not that the United States is going to cut and run from Ukraine. Here's the thing. Donald Trump does not like losing. He does not like losing. He likes to win, as we have noticed. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean endless war in Ukraine. What it means is that the United States supports Ukraine sufficient to prevent a Russian invasion of Kyiv, but also looks for an off-ramp with Putin, settling the lines where they are already settled. That is what a deal has looked like since 2022. Henry Kissinger said it in August 2022. I agreed with him then. I agree with him now. Not because, in the best of all possible worlds, Russia would end up in control of Donbass and Crimea, but just because that is the reality. And the reality on the ground is not changing. Here is Senator Rubio making the point the Biden administration has no plan in Ukraine. This is true. They don't have a plan in Ukraine. Their plan in Ukraine was to slow walk aid to Ukraine while declaring that there were no end goals in the war, which is not a plan at all. That is an actual recipe for a stalemate. Here is Senator Rubio talking about that.
But if you ask the Biden administration, they will tell you we are funding a stalemate. I think the Ukrainians have been incredibly brave and strong in standing up to Russia. But at the end of the day, what we are funding here is a stalemate war, and it needs to be brought to a conclusion because that country is going to be set back 100 years. Now, that doesn't mean that we celebrate what Vladimir Putin did or are excited about it. But I think there has to also be some common sense here, and that is that right now what we are funding is a stalemate that's costing lives. It's going to take 100 years to rebuild that poor country with everything they are facing.
Now, again, he is not wrong about that, and that is why President Trump is attempting to seek an off-ramp there. So, Marco Rubio, excellent pick for Secretary of State if all the reporting is correct. The winning continues. Meanwhile, Mike Waltz, representative from Florida, he's being picked, apparently, as the National Security Advisor. Waltz has been a bulldog on national security. Here, for example, was Representative Waltz going after Secretary of State Antony Blinken, as well as the Biden National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan.
Has deterrence failed? Iran supporting terrorism and its terrorist organizations and attacking Israel?
Unfortunately, horrifically, Iran has supported terrorism for decades.
Mr. Secretary, I have here the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, the invasion of Ukraine, the unholy alliance between Russia and China, Hamas and Hezbollah attacks on Israel, Houthi attacking international shipping, hostages in Gaza, Iran flush with cash. The reemergence of ISIS-K now, 6 thwarted attacks in Europe, increased Chinese aggression, and the collapse of our influence in Central Africa and the Sahel. And we get 5 minutes for the million people I represent in a public hearing, and you're going to tell the American people with this list they're safer?
Now, again, Waltz is a bulldog. He is a peace through strength advocate. And that, again, is the byword, peace through strength. You cross this line, we will clock you into next week as an excellent foreign policy. So more stellar picks from the Trump transition team. Really good stuff happening. Lots of winning, enjoying the winning. Okay, Trump has also apparently picked his next Department of Homeland Security head. This is the person who will be working alongside Tom Homan, who's going to be his borders czar. We talked about Tom Homan yesterday. You want to talk about a bulldog in both personality as well as personal appearance? Tom Homan, as your borders czar, is going to be the guy. He's now picked Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, as his Homeland Security Secretary. Now, when she is not shooting dogs in gravel pits, I know that was a big controversy during the last election cycle, Kristi Noem is really tough on the border. And that's the job of the Homeland Security Secretary. Alejandro Mayorkas has completely abdicated his duty to solidify the southern border. That's on Mayorkas. Okay, that's the job of the Homeland Security Secretary. Border Patrol answers to the Department of Homeland Security. When I went down personally earlier this year and I visited our southern border and I did a ride along with members of Border Patrol, they were telling me that Homeland Security was not giving them the permission to do their jobs. We were sitting there on the border in a Border Patrol vehicle, and we were looking up at the sky, and there was a drone overflying the area that we were sitting. And I asked the guys from Border Patrol, I assume that's ours. We're on the border. We're on the American side. They said, no, that's a drug cartel drone. I said, why don't you shoot that down? They said, we would have to get explicit individual permission from Alejandro Mayorkas directly in order to shoot down that drone. Well, I feel like Kristi Noem, she's pretty good with shooting things. So Kristi Noem, as Homeland Security Secretary, will do a good job. She will, again, work with Tom Homan in that role to solidify America's southern border. If you're worried about Kristi Noem with regard to illegal immigration, well, you shouldn't be. Here was Kristi Noem talking about terrorists and human traffickers entering the country.
But today, many of those who are entering our country under the current policies of the Biden administration are known terrorists. They're criminals. They're human traffickers and they're drug cartel members. Because the federal government's facilitating this violation of our federal law, vulnerable people from over 100 different countries have heard the story of our open border. They've put their families in jeopardy, and they've fallen victim to the atrocities of the Mexican cartels. Countries such as Venezuela are known to be emptying out their prisons and their mental institutions, and they're sending them to America. They're happy to let our open border be the solution to their problems and their responsibilities.
Well, folks, President Trump is assembling an excellent cabinet. Have you ever thought about what charities and causes the brands you give your hard-earned money actually support? Well, Pure Talk, my cell phone company, supports veterans. They are leading the fight against woke corporations. Pure Talk is veteran-led. They actually put their money where their mouth is. They've alleviated $10 million in veteran debt. They donate tens of thousands of dollars every single month to help prevent veteran suicide, and they just donated $50,000 to Micro Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning trades after active duty. Pure Talk gives you the exact same coverage as the big carriers, America's most dependable 5G network, for literally half the cost. Why are you still giving your money to Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, when there's a better option that actually supports our veterans? And when you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you'll get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. That means unlimited access to our incredible library of content. Am I Racist? What is a Woman? Mr. Bertram, Run I'd Fight, plus uncensored ad-free daily shows, and 1 year free of our new kids platform, BentKey. The only way you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Shapiro or call and mention my name. Stop overpaying for your cell phone plan. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Also, I got to tell you, I'm not getting tons of sleep. I mean, it's been an exciting ride, but I need to be awake to do the show, and that is why I need Black Rifle Coffee. Head to blackriflecoffee.com right now. Shop 30% off for Veterans Week, November 8th through the 14th. Each of their coffees was roasted right here in the USA by a veteran-led team of experienced coffee graders obsessed with bringing you the perfect cup of coffee. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded, veteran-run. They take pride in serving coffee and culture to people who love America. They have a huge selection of dark roasts, light roasts, everything in between. You also need to check out their gear. Black Rifle has a massive lineup of tees, hoodies, mugs, top-shelf brewing gear, and more. Everything Black Rifle creates, from mugs to graphic tees, are made with patriotic designs you aren't going to find anywhere else. A portion of every purchase you make with them goes to support veteran and first responder causes. From getting funding and equipment to first responders and helping veterans fight cancer, your money goes a long way toward giving back to those who serve our nation. Head over to blackriflecoffee.com right now. Save yourself 30% on America's coffee. That's blackriflecoffee.com to get 30% off. blackriflecoffee.com. They're keeping me awake, they're keeping me alive, and the coffee's awesome. blackriflecoffee.com. Again, Donald Trump is making great picks, and he's doing it fast, by the way. Again, he is not wasting time. This is not a lame duck second term. This is a very activist second term, and you can tell by the people he is picking. By the way, this is a constellation of stars. These are all very famous people. And the people that he is picking for these various roles, these are all people who were thinking about running for president or have run for president in the past. It's like a constellation of people who are going to be the future of the Republican Party, not just, of course, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who's sort of the heir apparent, but also people like Kristi Noem or people like Senator Rubio. These are all picks that are going to have a long future inside the Republican Party. They are young. Waltz, these are all young people. Waltz is only 50. Marco Rubio is 53. Kristi Noem is 52. Right? There's a younger generation of Republican leadership that is now being brought under the tent of President Trump. These are great picks. Really, really great. Lee Zeldin, by the way, was just picked for the EPA administrator. That is good news as well. Lee Zeldin, of course, ran a very competitive campaign in New York that basically won Republicans the House back in 2022. If it had not been for Lee Zeldin's very strong run in New York, where he barely lost to Kathy Hochul in a heavy blue state, and really presaged the rise of Donald Trump's numbers in the state of New York, if it had not been for Zeldin, it's very possible that his coattails won Republicans the House in 2022, which was supposed to be a red wave year and really never arrived. Well, now Zeldin, who again is a young up-and-coming star, he is 44 years old. He served 4 terms as a Republican congressman repping Eastern Long Island before losing to Kathy Hochul in a shockingly close race. He is now going to be serving as administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. He is a pro-markets person. He is going to undo many of the terrible regulations that have been promulgated by the Biden administration. He's going to have a hand, as the New York Post says, in the regulation of new power facilities and transmission lines needed for artificial intelligence. He's also going to be overseeing billions in funding for environmental programs passed under Biden. And he is not going to be handing those out to green boondoggles. President Trump put out a statement. Lee, with a very strong legal background, has been a true fighter for America First policies. He will ensure fair and swift deregulatory decisions that will be enacted in a way to unleash the power of American businesses, while at the same time maintaining the highest environmental standards, including the cleanest air and water on the planet. He added he will set new standards on environmental review and maintenance that will allow the United States to grow in a healthy and well-structured way. Again, Trump is being so pragmatic. He's being so practical about this stuff. You remember that on election night, he name-checked Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the room. he was very complimentary of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the room. And you'll recall that he did say, Bobby, don't touch the oil. This is the thing. President Trump, because he likes the winning, he is following policies that are geared toward the winning. He's also bringing back a lot of loyalists who are going to do what he wants them to do. That includes, of course, Stephen Miller, who had a big role in the first Trump administration. Stephen Miller is widely known as an incredibly strong border hawk. According to the New York Times, Stephen Miller, an immigration hardliner and advisor to Trump, is taking over policy planning for the transition and is expected to be named deputy chief of staff in his administration, which, again, he'll be serving under Susie Wiles. This is such a good team. Honestly, it's a really, really good team. Miller's views are favored by Mr. Trump's hardline base. VP-elect J.D. Vance and Donald Trump Jr., who has been influential in the transition, praised the prospective choice on X. Again, this is a unity party, and Trump is building a unity party among all various aspects of the coalition. Honestly, it's hard for me to think how he could be doing better so far. This is really, really a solid Trump transit. I'm loving the winning, and these are all competent people. These are all competent people who are being put in charge of departments that are important, and they're going to clean house. And they should clean house. I expect that the State Department will be cleaned by Marco Rubio. I expect that Homeland Security will be cleaned by Kristi Noem. All of these departments need to be cleaned of deep state employees who hate Trump and hate his administration and hate what he's about to do. And by the way, they do have plans in place to thwart Trump. So all of that's going to be deeply necessary on the part of Team Trump. Speaking of which, Democrats know they are in deep trouble. The Democratic turnout dramatically dropped, actually, in the last election cycle. Now, again, I had predicted this. I didn't get everything right in this election cycle, but I got some things right. One of the things that I got right in this election cycle, I've been saying, if you listen to the show a lot, I've been saying for years that in 2020, you had an unprecedented increase in the number of voters. The number of voters increased from 2016 to 2020 by something like 22 million additional voters. Okay, that is unprecedented. Usually, it's 4 to 6 million in any given election cycle that are added to the voter rolls. So my suggestion was that you would see an increase in voter turnout from 2016, but it would be down from 2020. Why? Well, because 2020 was an insane year. As you recall, it was pandemic year, it was BLM year, and everybody was voting by mail. So that allowed ballot harvesters to basically go around to every single house and just pick up ballots. Very little day of voting in terms of percentage in 2020. Well, now people are asking, where did all the Democratic turnout go? And the answer is, in a non-pandemic year where you don't change the rules specifically to allow for widespread, extremely early mail-in voting and ballot harvesting, it turns out that the people on the Democratic side who are low propensity voters aren't necessarily going to turn out. And the people on the Republican side who are low propensity voters did turn out because they like President Trump specifically. By the way, you can see that Trump is more beloved by the low propensity Republican voters than any other Republican. And you can see that in many of the Senate races where Trump outpaced the Senate candidates in places like, for example, Wisconsin and Nevada by tens of thousands of votes. That's something Republicans should remember going forward. It's very easy to overread election victories as a complete referendum, a successful referendum on everything your party is presenting. In reality, every election is a referendum on the candidate. And I think Democrats overread the power and mystique of Barack Obama as a referendum on the wonder of their programming, and they went totally off the rails. I think Republicans theoretically could do that with Trump, although, again, I don't think that many people in the Republican Party are under the illusion that Trump's popularity is immediately transferable to any other candidate. It isn't. He is one of one, as we can all see clearly. I mean, there's no one of one quite like the Donald Trump who is one of one. Okay, but for Democrats, they had a major voter drop-off, and they're trying to figure out why. According to the New York Times, voters in liberal strongholds across the country, from city centers to suburban stretches, failed to show up to vote for VP Kamala Harris at the levels they even had for Joe Biden 4 years earlier, contributing significantly to her defeat by Donald Trump. The numbers help fill in the picture of Mr. Trump's commanding victory, showing it may not represent the resounding endorsement of his agenda the final electoral college vote suggests. They're trying to convince themselves that, don't worry, if we just get the right person, all the people who voted for Biden will show up again. But they don't understand. 2020 was an outlier year. Barack Obama was an outlier candidate. Kamala Harris looks more like baseline. She looks more like, say, Hillary Clinton 2016 than anybody else. And that is going to be what future Democratic candidates look like. If you think Josh Shapiro is going to wildly outdraw, for example, Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton, I don't know what you've been smoking, but I think everybody deserves some. The drop-off spanned demographics and economics, according to the New York Times. It was clear in counties with the highest job growth rates, counties with the most job losses, counties with the highest percentage of college-educated voters. Turnout was down, too, across groups that are traditionally strong for Democrats. The decline in key cities, including Detroit and Philadelphia, made it exceptionally difficult for Harris to win the battlegrounds of Michigan and Pennsylvania. That, of course, was the early indicator. If you watched our election night coverage here at Daily Wire, you could see me looking at the returns from big cities in North Carolina and Georgia, and immediately I thought Trump was going to win. I started asking Brent Buchanan, who is our elections analyst from Signal, I started asking him, if the turnout mirrors what we are seeing in the big cities in the Rust Belt, he's going to win, right? And Brent was like, yeah, that's right. Okay, so the turnout was down for Democrats. As Steve Kornacki of MSNBC points out, the Republican coalition here is much more diverse and much more durable than it has historically been.
There's some striking changes here from when he first came on the scene and ran 8 years ago. The Republican coalition that elected Trump last Tuesday, it's younger, it's more diverse, it's more blue collar than before for Trump, and really that at any point for the Republican Party in modern history.
He is right about that. CNN's Harry Enton says, listen, Democrats are looking for sort of a quick fix, easy answer. There is no quick fix, easy answer, according to Harry Enton at CNN.
There's no heir apparent, and we can see this perhaps best by let's taking a look at the early poll leader for 2028. There isn't one. There's no early favorite. There's no early clear favorite. And that is really unusual because the bottom line is when you have no incumbent Democratic president following this year, we've looked back at similar situations. Back in 2017, Joe Biden was the clear heir apparent heading into 2005 and then 2013, heading into the 2016 campaign, Hillary Clinton was way up in the national polls. It was pretty clear she was the heir apparent. How about Al Gore going into the 2000 campaign or 04? Again, the clear heir apparent. You have to go all the way back to the 1992 campaign with this giant question mark over here. Let's see if I can draw it in. There we go. Where there was no clear heir apparent. This is going to be the first cycle, it seems, since going back all the way to the late 80s, early 1990s, in which there is no clear early frontrunner for the next Democratic nomination.
And by the way, you'll recall that in 1992, there was a really brutal interior battle, a massive interior battle inside the Democratic Party. Bill Clinton emerged victorious, basically running as a slightly more liberal Republican. If you look at Bill Clinton's program in 1992, how he ran in 1996, I mean, it was Bill Clinton who did welfare reform with Newt Gingrich. So Democrats can either moderate or Democrats can wither on the vine. Now, Democrats have a rough road ahead of them. I'll tell you, this election season was a rough road. I visited 6 different swing states between campaign stops, media hits, on other podcasts, our very own election coverage in Nashville. I was on the go all the time. And somewhere in between all of that, I needed to maintain my health, hit the gym, spend time with the family. When I was younger, I used to think I could just power through on pure conservative willpower and some caffeine. I learned pretty quickly peak performance requires peak nutrition, which means eating enough veggies. That's why I'm thankful to have Balance of Nature, which fits right into even the busiest of days. Imagine trying to eat 31 different fruits and veggies every day. It sounds miserable and time-consuming. With Balance of Nature fruits and veggies, there's never been a more convenient dietary supplement to ensure you get a wide variety of fruits and veggies daily. Balance of Nature takes fruits and veggies, they freeze-dry them, they turn them into a powder, and they put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows precisely what to do with them. It's kosher, which means I can stuff that into the protein smoothie every day. Let me break this down for you with facts and logic. You're getting the nutrients from 31 different fruits and veggies in convenient form without having to spend hours in the grocery store or kitchen. This is exactly the kind of efficiency the free market provides. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Shapiro for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code Shapiro. Also, you know what the radical left will never understand? The profound, unshakable bond between Christian and Jewish communities in the United States. While the secular left pushes an anti-religious agenda, Christians and Jews have stood together defending our shared values and religious liberties. That's why I'm proud to partner with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. For over 40 years, they've been doing something remarkable, building bridges between our communities through faith, shared values, mutual respect. The fellowship doesn't just talk, they act. Right now, they're on the ground providing real help to vulnerable Jewish families and elderly around the globe. We're talking about food, medical care, emergency assistance, and security to people who need it most. Look, as someone who spent years talking about Judeo-Christian values, I can tell you, this organization represents exactly what makes the alliance so powerful. It's about Christians and Jews coming together to do what our faiths command, helping people in need. If you want to be part of this amazing mission, visit benforthefellowship.org. That's benforthefellowship.org. Your support makes a real difference in people's lives. A lot of suffering people on the ground in the Holy Land. Right now, the fellowship is helping them out. You can help out too. benforthefellowship.org. That's benforthefellowship.org. God bless and thank you. So naturally, they're freaking out. MSNBC's Jonathan Capehart totally freaking out. He says, I don't even know how I'm going to share a country with these people. Okay, keep going with this. Seriously, good luck. Good luck.
The thing that I'm grappling with is that someone was elected who ran a campaign that was openly hostile.
openly racist, xenophobic, misogynistic, transphobic, everything. And yet now the election's over. Folks accept the results, but now how do we move forward when we know there are people have people in their families who voted for him? They work with people who voted for him. They live next to people who voted for him.
I mean, honestly, your panic. Maybe you should try talking to people who voted for Trump. Maybe it's not all that mysterious, considering there are probably 75 to 80 million of them. They aren't hard to find. Meanwhile, lawyer Mark Zaid is advising some of his left-wing clients to flee the country, to flee. Okay, well, I mean, if it's legal, I'll help pay some of if they want to revoke their American citizenship, we can talk about how I help them buy a one-way ticket out if you want to leave.
I was reading an article where you said you were counseling some people to leave the country. Why?
Well, look, Donald Trump and those in his inner circle have been very clear over the period of time, and especially during the campaign, that they do intend to retaliate, and they do intend to retaliate swiftly. They've made those promises. He said that he intends to have his second administration one that fulfills promises. So it would be naive and foolish for us not to take any of this seriously.
You got to be kidding me. Fine, do it. Really, go. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you, as they say. Meanwhile, again, Democrats are having a hard time coming to grips with reality. So Joy Reid, again, not a lot of joy in Joy Reid land. Joy Reid is saying that she's no longer going to focus on American interests. She's going to focus in on black interests. So again, it's this sort of intersectional racism that got you where you're going. So keep going. Keep digging that hole. See how it goes.
Hey, I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly white progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends, because I don't think they're coming. But yeah, I think black women are now on the Save Black Women, Prioritize Black Men, and prioritize black communities, black businesses, and the black spaces. But Save America, Save the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Amazing stuff. Keep going with this. See how it works for you, Joy Reid. By the way, an outsized share of black men voted for Donald Trump. Keep going with this. It turns out, you know what a lot of black Americans don't like? Being treated in the way that Joy Reid is treating them. But, you still got big voices in the Democratic Party calling for more intersectional wokeness. Among them, Jon Stewart, who is now rapidly aging. He is, at last check, Jon Stewart is 200,000 years old. Here's Jon Stewart still pretending to be 40 on Comedy Central and talking about how people need to stop talking about wokeness. Wokeness is great, says Jon Stewart.
Everyone's talking about this wokeness theory, from cable news to the op-ed section. And sometimes the op-ed section being read on cable news.
We want to get to the Maureen Dowd piece. Maureen Dowd's piece for the New York Times entitled Democrats and the Case of Mistaken Identity Politics.
Ooh! That was Morning Joe host Mika Brzezinski discussing a New York Times column by Maureen Dowd on how to escape the liberal bubble. I guess I'll just have to get the Times and read it myself, unless there's another way to make this less entertaining.
We're going to read the entire piece, but it's worth it.
About wokeness? I couldn't even stay woke through that whole f***ing thing.
So Jon Stewart's critique is, guys, you just don't understand the woke. We need more wokeness. Good luck to you. Meanwhile, Democrats trying as a last-ditch effort to enshrine Joe Biden's policy. Where is Joe Biden, by the way? Remember that time he was president? I know. It was so long ago when we were pretending he was president. And then, of course, he was thrown over for Kamala Harris, who proceeded to lose to Donald Trump in one of history's greatest ironies. It's such a wonderful story. Honestly, I didn't know God was going to stick the landing so hard on Trump season 8, but man, did he stick the landing on this. Anyway, Joe Biden is still out wandering the landscape. When I say wandering the landscape, I mean he's literally having trouble keeping his footing on a beach. Here was Joe Biden the other day at the beach and having trouble with the sand. Ooh, boy. Yeah, so Joe Biden, he's like slipping and sliding on that sand, having some trouble. Jill is like navigating it no problem because she's younger than he is. Joe, yeah, the best tweets were all about how Joe Biden wasn't actually slipping. He was just sand walking to prevent the creatures from Dune from eating him. And you just have to understand that he is an expert in the ways of the Fremen in order to understand what Joe Biden is doing right there. Well, yesterday, Joe Biden, it was Veterans Day, and so he spoke about how this was his last speech as president at Arlington. And, again, not a lot going on for the president of the United States.
This is the last time I will stand here at Arlington as Commander-in-Chief. It's been the greatest honor of my life to lead you, to serve you, to care for you, to defend you, just as you defended us, generation after generation after generation. You are the greatest fighting force, and this is not hyperbole, the finest fighting force in the history of the world.
It would have been awesome if you hadn't lowered all the standards and then tried to woke the military. That would have been awesome, sir. So what exactly are Democrats going to try to do to stop the incoming Trump train? John Podesta, top advisor to Joe Biden, he says we're going to Trump-proof Joe Biden's policies. They're going to try and enshrine it. He's saying that it's at the United Nations Climate Change Summit, COP29 in Azerbaijan. Here's John Podesta saying they're going to Trump-proof all the policies to prevent Trump from actually being president.
So my team back in Washington is hard at work ensuring that we solidify the investments that, as I noted, are powering jobs and investment all across the country, north, south, east, west. And we think that is likely to be one of the best protections for the economic incentives that were included in the Inflation Reduction Act.
So, again, they're going to try and enshrine this. And they're pretty open about this. According to Axios, House Democrats are strategizing ways to put a damper on the Trump administration's sweeping plans while their party still retains some control in Washington. Many Democrats fear that full GOP control of Congress will allow Trump to roll back many of the gains they made under the Biden administration. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is already telling allies how he's preparing to lead the resistance to Trump. Yeah, I'm sure he would love to. Outgoing Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal said, quote, a lot of things can be undone, but it can take longer to undo them. It will force a priority from then on what they want to focus on. The talks mainly involve members of the Progressive, Black, Hispanic, Asian Pacific American, and Equality caucuses, according to multiple lawmakers engaged in the discussions. Apparently, there are conversations, according to Emmanuel Cleaver, Democrat of Missouri, that are taking place where people are trying to figure out if there are some steps that can be taken that can reduce the damage. Hispanic Caucus Chair Nanette Barragan of California pointed to immigration policy as a key focus, noting Republicans, quote, have promised mass deportations. The president-elect has even admitted that women and children could get caught up in these operations. Jayapal said one plan is to propose a raft of executive orders Biden could issue to, quote, protect existing structures, such as shielding career civil servants and Justice Department officials. I mean, Trump can come in and just rip those up. I mean, if there's an executive order, it can't bind the future president. It's an executive order. It's not the way executive orders work, but they're going to do whatever they can to throw roadblocks in the way of President Trump's agenda. And then they're going to look for a consolidation point against Trump's agenda. And they think they've already found it. And they are so wildly mistaken in this assessment. They think that when the deportations begin, they're going to be able to ramp up public anger at the deportations under Tom Homan or Kristi Noem or whomever in the Trump administration is heading that up. That is a category error. Donald Trump ran on mass deportations, and he won 47% of the Latino vote in this election cycle. The idea that Americans are in any way, shape, or form upset with the, for example, deportation of criminal illegal immigrants or newly crossed illegal immigrants who are falsely claiming amnesty, I don't know. I don't think this is going to go how Democrats think this is going to go, but this is the place where the resistance is going to make their last stand. We'll get to that in just one moment. First, folks, I've been reliably informed Christmas is coming. Let's be honest. The woke corporations are already planning ways to ruin it. But this is Trump country. This is MAGA country. And over here, we can say Merry Christmas. Well, why don't you say Merry Christmas by getting some Jeremy's Razors? Get ahead of the holiday chaos with Jeremy's Razors, where we're fighting the left and saving Christmas Lock in 25% off the highly rated Precision 5 razor, plus all shave hair and body essentials for shame-free stocking stuffers. Perfect for dads, uncles, brothers, sons, any self-respecting dude who knows he is a man. Stop giving your money to wool corporations that hate your guts. Start checking off your list at jeremy'srazors.com. Also, if you haven't heard, Am I Racist?, the #1 documentary of the decade, is now officially submitted for an Academy Award. That's right. It's submitted. No need to wait for a nomination or even a win. You can see what the buzz is all about right now at Daily Wire Plus. Use code Trump. We'll take 47% off your new annual membership with that. You'll get access to the movie, a special deleted scene that did not make it to theaters, and bonus behind-the-scenes footage showing how he pulled off one of the greatest roles in all of human history. But the only way to watch this Academy Award-submitted hit comedy is with a Daily Wire Plus membership. Head on over to dailywire.com/subscribe. Use code Trump to get 47% off your new annual membership today. So, Democrats believe that they're going to make their resistance stand against deportations. Here's the thing. Most Americans are fine with deportations. I mean, by polling data, most Americans are fine with deportations. Tom Homan, who is the bulldog new border czar under President Trump, he says, listen, I don't care what people think about me. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to actually do my job.
Frankly, I don't care what people think about me, especially on the left. Again, when you have a historic crisis, a crisis this big, here's what they need to know. When you have a crisis this big that overwhelms the Border Patrol, where the majority of Border Patrol are no longer on patrol, they're making sandwiches, they're changing diapers, they're making baby formula, they're making hospital runs, they're making airport runs. When you take most of Border Patrol agents off the border to deal with humanitarian crisis, that's when the fentanyl comes across to kill 250,000 Americans. That's when the sex trafficking has increased 600%. That's when non-suspected terrorists has crossed this country. They've had a record of people on terrorist watches that have been arrested at the southern border. That's why you have over 2 million gotaways. How many of them came from a country sponsoring terror? So I don't care what anybody's opinion is on illegal immigration. When you create a crisis this big, all these other bad things happen. That's why you have to secure the border. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or independent. Border security is national security. We should all be on the same side of that.
You know, anybody who thinks that that is somehow going to be a controversial position, yeah, they've got another think coming. Well, The View, of course, does not have a lot of thinks coming ever. So The View was freaking out yesterday, of course, about Homan and mass deportations and all the rest.
You realize, I mean, it's chilling what he just said. You realize that when he says, yes, families can be deported together, what he is saying is that U.S. citizens can be deported. What he is saying is if the parent is undocumented and they have U.S. citizen children or U.S. citizen spouse, or and you don't want to separate them, then let's deport the U.S. citizens. And when you talk about mass deportations, people think, oh, it's just going to be the criminals. There's not enough criminals, aliens in the federal prison system for it to be mass deportations. What it means is grandmothers. What it means is brothers and aunts. What it means is abuelos y abuelas. It means dreamers. It means your family members. It means your colleagues. It means your friends. It means people who are part of the society. And look, America, you know, those of you who voted for Trump, this is what you wanted. This is what you voted for. You screwed around and you're about to find out.
Well, I mean, this idea that somehow Latinos are going to be shocked by what Trump is proposing, they are not. And as far as deportations of people in the United States, if you are here illegally, then you can be deported. If you have children who are citizens of the United States, they have a right to be here. They're citizens of the United States, but you may choose that you wish to live with your child elsewhere rather than you being deported and your child staying, right? That's a decision that families are going to have to make. As Tom Homan has said, if you commit a crime and you go to jail, you are separated from your child. That's just the way it works. And it is, in fact, a crime to illegally cross America's border and lie about your asylum status. That's quite real. Again, if they think that this is, just wait, this is where the media is going to go. The media is going to wait for the first story where a family is broken up and they're going to bring all the cameras. There's going to be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, which is why, by the way, Trump isn't going to focus on that first. I promise you, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, the people he's bringing in, they're smart enough to focus on the criminal illegal aliens first and build up momentum for larger scale activity. And they're going to be focusing largely on the people who recently entered. Why? Because they probably did not have children who are American citizens yet. They have not had time to have children in the United States yet. Well, here's CNN's Maria Cardona going off also on Trump's mass deportation plan. And this is going to be the point of their resistance. They're wait for the AOC photos outside some sort of empty parking lot in white, crying again. Get ready for all of it.
I'm saying if this is what you all think you have the mandate for, Go for it. You're going to see very quick and very horrifically the kind of backlash you're going to get. I don't think people voted for a cost of almost $100 billion that you all are going to spend if, in fact, you are going to deport the 12 to 15 million. Some people in your party think it's 20 million undocumented immigrants that are here. Go after the criminals. Absolutely. And in fact, that's what every administration has done.
Yeah, again, when you suggest that Trump isn't going to do anything different or that it's going to be wildly unpopular, Trump has not been shy about this. He has not been shy about this because the alternative provided by the Democratic Party was a wide open border. This is the part that's crazy. All that Joe Biden had to do was maintain Donald Trump's policies and everything would have been fine with regard to border policy. Instead, for reasons both ideological and practical, because he wanted more illegal immigrants in the country, obviously, Joe Biden opened the border wide and he got 7.5 to 10 million illegal immigrants entering the country under Joe Biden. So the backlash is coming and it's coming strong. Well, the other angle that members of the resistance are taking is personally attacking members of the Trump administration. Stephen Miller, of course, has always been sort of a focal point of their hatred. He's being brought back in as a top advisor. That's not a shock. Stephen Miller is very close with President Trump. Here is CNN going after Stephen Miller, not on the basis of his policy, but by suggesting that he has personal issues with extended members of his family. Like this, I'm sorry, this is not media coverage. This is just trash.
I suggest lots of folks who voted for Donald Trump go back and watch a lot of interviews and media appearances by Stephen Miller. And you see who he is. He's a despicable human being that is a racist and a xenophobe, and his own family has disowned him. And this is now who has proximity to power in the White House, basically number 2 next to Susie Wiles in the ear of the President of the United States. Well, I guess the upside is at least he won't be DHS Secretary or Attorney General.
Again, that attempt to trash somebody like Stephen Miller on a personal basis, if you think that's going to somehow increase the popularity of Democrats, you have another thing coming. Meanwhile, again, attacking Trump's allies is going to be sort of the mode of operation for the Democratic Party because they can't win on policy. The latest person who they are putting in the crosshairs, shock of shocks, is, of course, Elon Musk. You knew this was going to happen. So Kara Swisher, who does a tech podcast, she's always been relatively anti-Musk. Well, now she's suggesting that the reason that Musk bought Twitter is to create autocratic power on behalf of Donald Trump or something.
This is not someone with any foreign policy expertise, even though he has companies that are around the world. And one of the reasons he bought Twitter is so he would have more impact with his other businesses, like Starlink, like Tesla, so that, when he walked in the room, he wasn't just the car guy, he was the Twitter/X guy. It's very important globally, especially with autocratic leaders, to have that power.
Again, this idea that Elon Musk is an autocrat. Elon Musk is providing Starlink for free to Ukraine right now. He's doing that so that Ukraine can fend off the Russians. Elon Musk as autocrat, it just doesn't work. He made X significantly more open. He opened the doors to tons of people who could not speak before, covering the news in a new way. And it is the left that's constantly attempting authoritarian shutdowns of informational dissemination. Musk is not the authoritarian. It is the projection of authoritarian onto anybody conservative truly is astonishing. Meanwhile, the New York Times is trying to generate dissent between Musk and Trump. David Nassau, he has a piece in the New York Times today titled, quote, "Trump and Musk, the bromance that cannot last." Quote, "So sorry, Elon Musk, but the bromance is not going to last. I know the president-elect put you on the phone with President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine the night after the election. And I know that in Donald Trump's victory speech, after obligatory but abbreviated nods to his beautiful wife, his amazing children, and his feisty vice president-elect, he celebrated your super genius as only he could, in a disjointed, discombobulated, wildly overextended pain and declaration of love. Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. He said, a star is born, Elon, yet therein lies your problem, Mr. Musk. There's room for only one star, one genius in the Trump White House. As the president-elect has told us time and again, he is one smart fellow and a very stable genius. He's not going to share his victory and center stage with anyone. Mr. Trump may be mercurial, but in this situation, he is highly unlikely to break historical precedent. I predict he will probably join the long list of genius businessmen, donors who were casually discarded after they'd served their purpose." Again, attempting to speculate out the idea that somehow Musk and Trump are going to have a falling out, this is just wishful thinking. So here's what we got from the Democrats. We have attempts to actually we have attempts to stop the Trump agenda through House manipulation. We have crazy resistance talk over immigration. And we have people trying to sow seeds of dissent between Trump and Elon Musk. So far, you ain't got much. Well, folks, one of the reasons Donald Trump was elected was to clean out the deep state in a wide variety of agencies. One of those agencies, of course, is FEMA. You remember our reporting earlier this week about a FEMA official telling people not to visit homes with Trump flags or Trump signs in Florida after Hurricane Helene in an attempt to deprive them of their ability to apply for federal aid. You know, that kind of stuff is the reporting we do here at Daily Wire. If you've got a tip worth investigating, yes, your information could be the missing piece to an important story. Submit your tip today. Make a difference at tips.dailywire.com. Meanwhile, you'll recall that many of the usual anti-Semitic suspects on X were suggesting that the giant anti-Semitic riot that took place in Amsterdam, in which Israeli and Jewish fans of a Maccabi soccer team in Amsterdam were chased down in the streets and beaten up, that was all the fault of Israeli soccer hooligans who days before had ripped down Palestinian flags in the streets of Amsterdam and chanted some anti-Arab slogans. Well, it turns out it's a little more than that. It turns out that now we have ongoing days of riots in the center of Amsterdam with people chanting "Cancer, Jews, and burning trains." Here is some video from Amsterdam of precisely that. These are obviously the populations that Amsterdam needs more of. So they're literally setting trains on fire. And they're screaming "Cancer, Jews." They're screaming "Cancer, Jews" as they break the windows. Apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal and other organizations, these are all organized riots. They've been going on for days at a time at this point. Dutch authorities are warning the anti-Semitic riots in Amsterdam have a high chance of continuing. But I thought it was just about a soccer game. I thought it was just about soccer hooligans. Wait, you mean that anti-Semites from radical Muslim countries are doing anti-Semitic things in Western countries? That's crazy. I've never heard such a thing. Meanwhile, John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, who's been very pro-Israel, he's found himself on the wrong side of a mayor from Michigan. His name is Abdullah Hammoud, ripping Fetterman and suggesting he's doing more for Israel than for Pennsylvania, which is weird since Fetterman is currently carrying about a 60% approval rating in Pennsylvania.
I think Fetterman has done more for the state of Israel than he has for the residents of Pennsylvania. And obviously you saw the election results in Pennsylvania, so those will speak for itself. Tell us today why it was worth the risk of a Donald Trump presidency for you to stand in strong alignment with Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet of war criminals.
Again, this is the pitch. This is the pitch. Democrats can embrace that, and then we'll see how it goes for them. Meanwhile, the world is already changing. Iran is trying to woo Trump. They're trying to reach out, apparently, to President Trump. They're considering whether maybe they can make concessions. According to the New York Times, Iran debates whether it could make a deal with Trump. Some in Iran's new, more moderate government think the result of the presidential election provides an opportunity to make a lasting deal with the United States. Now, this is the usual routine of the New York Times, is where they proclaim that there is a moderate government in Tehran. There is not. The Ayatollahs still run it. They used to do this routine with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Originally, they suggested he was a moderate. Then they suggested that Hassan Rouhani was a moderate. Now they're suggesting that the new leader of Iran, the moderate president, Masoud Pezeshkian, is somehow a moderate. Okay, that's not real. They're hoping that this will somehow lead President Trump to make concessions to the Iranians. That is not going to happen. There will be a maximum pressure campaign with regard to the terror regime in Iran. And Iran is not going to be able to escape that unless they start making some very serious, not minor, very serious concessions to the United States. That is the only way they avoid what's coming next. All right, folks, we're going to jump into the mailbag coming up. If you're not a subscriber, your question just won't be answered. So that's why you should subscribe. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.